Welcome to Books for Success. Today, we're delving into the wisdom within Real Sex by Lousada and Louise Mazanti, PhD. Discover how to enhance your sex life and strengthen your relationship in the process. You'll learn the nature of your intimate desires, how to be present enough to satisfy your partner, the importance of communication, about setting boundaries, that the goal of a sexual relationship is pleasure, not performance. Subscribe and ring the bell for notifications if you want to keep receiving the knowledge of book summaries about health, wealth, love, psychology, and much more. Don't be shy about dropping your book suggestions for us to summarize. Also, you can use this video as an audiobook summary. Let's grow and succeed together. As real as you want it to be. Sexuality is a vast, often unexplored, and highly judged field, with limitations imposed by both ourselves and society. Below, we will explore a variety of factors that influence the answers to the most intimate questions about sex. In their book, Lousada and Louise Mazanti discuss the differences between sensual and sexual energy, highlighting the importance of both in the pursuit of a fulfilling erotic experience. We will explore the idea that sex is not simply an act with a specific objective but a process that is continually evolving as we discover what makes us feel good. This point of view will make us question our reasons for having sex and strive for a more authentic experience. You will also understand the importance of freeing yourself from the shame and guilt imposed by society, the challenge of true intimacy. How many times have many couples missed the opportunity to climax because of inhibition due to shame and lack of sexual education? If this has been your case in the past or you want to learn more about the subject, hang around until the end of the summary. You deserve to enjoy real sex. Unveiling desire. Some people wonder what it means to have real sex and why they want to experience it. Culture, personal beliefs, family upbringing, and media often influence our answers. Societal expectations and taboos around certain types of sexual relationships that are frowned upon can lead us to be conflicted about what we yearn for. In addition, modern culture and pornography are mainly responsible for our idealization of sexuality, which creates a disconnect from what we really want. Understanding and accepting our desires as natural and healthy is a critical step toward authentic sexuality, as long as we know how to be respectful of our partners. This realization frees us from beliefs imposed by others. Sex is redefined here not only as a physical activity but as both energy and quality of experience that varies widely among individuals. It is of utmost importance to establish the difference between sensual and sexual energy. While sensual energy relates to the experience enjoyed through the senses and general well-being, sexual energy has a more specific, often genital, bodily focus that seeks intensity and climax. Both energies are essential for a fulfilling sexual experience. Lousada and Mazanti recommend challenging the general idea that sex is only about the traditional process of starting with foreplay and ending with orgasm. Although just trying to reach orgasm is not necessarily a negative thing, sex should not have a static goal. Instead, it is a process of constant variation and exploration of different pleasures. To achieve an authentic and more satisfying experience, we must reflect on our motives for having sex and understand them in depth. The importance of sexual presence. During sex, it is essential to be constantly and meaningfully present. But what exactly does this mean? It means you must live in the moment with your partner. Sex is about bodily interactions, not thoughts. Thinking about unrealistic pornographic images or insecurities often diverts attention, taking away from the physical and emotional experience and hindering enjoyment. When people get lost in fantasies, performance pressures, or internal criticism, they distance themselves from their bodily sensations. Education and social norms that inhibit expressing emotions from childhood also play a role in this disconnection during sex. Several studies mention the neural changes and benefits of mindfulness. This practice focuses on the present moment with great interest, curiosity, engagement, and acceptance. Adding this philosophy to relationships allows us to enjoy real sex fully. Hit the brakes and take in the moment and the experience, unlike what pornographic images may have taught you. Your goal is to enjoy, not to get to the end. Focus on increasing your ability to contain sexual energy, and don't neglect foreplay to intensify the pleasure. Dare to build true intimacy. Learn to appreciate your partner's sexual energy. At first, It can be tricky because although we desire a deep and authentic relationship, we are also terrified of being intimately vulnerable in front of others. This situation is why it is so essential to work on communication. We will go into this in more detail next. Let's talk about sex. Sincere, bold, and, above all, honest communication is critical to a satisfying sex life. Most people don't learn to communicate freely about the things they don't like during sex, leading to awkward explorations, repressed sexuality, and recurrent frustration. Those who don't communicate well about their sexual needs fall into apathy with their partner. And that is where the excitement begins to fade. Often, society subjects sexuality to a vow of silence and shame. Talking about it usually comes along with the stigma of being inappropriate, especially for monogamous heterosexual women, who are often taught not to possess or express sexual desires. As a result, sexual dissatisfaction becomes a habit, and the inability to set clear boundaries affects respect and consent. Good sexual communication consists of 3 parts: knowing your own desires and limits, letting your partner know about them, and, most importantly, making sure you do it assertively and respectfully. Our words can easily hurt others, so when expressing your needs, do so thoughtfully. Remember the importance of reciprocity and acknowledging and respecting each other's physical and emotional insecurities. Negotiating the fulfillment of fantasies and boundaries is a growth process for both of you and will ultimately bring you joy and pleasure. Did you know? During orgasm, several areas of the brain are deactivated, including those related to emotion, fear, and anxiety. In addition, releasing dopamine and oxytocin contributes to a sense of well-being and connection. Permission to enjoy. To be in tune with our pursuit of pleasure, we need to get rid of the stigma of guilt and shame that society imposes. You own your desires, and no one can tell you how to live them. Unfortunately, the right to sexual freedom is not respected in all countries. Everyone should be able to choose sexual partners freely without coercion or discrimination. One way to assess the maturity of a society is in its ability to accept sexual freedom. The permission you give yourself to enjoy your sexual experience is affected in 2 completely different ways: control from above by the state and influence from below by individuals. At the same time, social influences, media representation, and social network interactions shape our perceptions of sexuality and affect our ability to give ourselves permission. According to Lousada and Mazanti, there are 3 different types of permission, which present themselves as powerful tools to counteract negative beliefs about sex. Permission to be a sexual being. Accept your sexual identity independently, without the need for external validation. It fosters self-acceptance and self-awareness. Permission to indulge in pleasure and loss of control. Overcoming the fear of losing control during orgasm is vital to a satisfying sexual experience. The orgasm itself is a carefree moment of pure ecstasy where your mind goes blank and demands permission to let go and allow pleasure to take center stage. Permission to say no. Permission to refuse sexual experiences that do not align with your desires is equally essential. Everyone has their preferences, and that's fine. The important thing is to respect them and to respect yourself when you don't want to engage in something specific. When we don't allow ourselves to feel, we become internally judgmental and hard on ourselves. Then, we project those insecurities onto others, mainly our partners. By seeking the opposite, not only do we unleash our sexual sides, but we also influence how others perceive us. Authentic acceptance of our desires builds excitement that radiates to those around us, fostering mutual acceptance and understanding. Pleasure before performance. You've probably found yourself feeling pressured to perform well during sex instead of enjoying it, ignoring the fact that this affects not only your partner's experience but also your own. When seeking sexual pleasure, the desire to do it right takes us away from the true essence of the act itself, pure and simple delight. This mentality can lead to anxiety and pressure, 2 things that do nothing more than kill libido rather than increase it. So, how can we free ourselves from the pressure to perform? First, we must begin by accepting that there is no consensus on how the ideal sexual encounter should look. It's like eating an Oreo cookie. Everyone enjoys them differently. The only wrong way is if you don't eat them. The source of the problem stems from our relationship with pleasure. If we are not connected and in tune with our own enjoyment, we only focus on performing well. But in this pursuit to get the highest score in bed, we affect both our time and our partners. Techniques and expectations take over, and our minds begin to wander during sex. Are they enjoying it? Do I look good from this angle? Am I sexy enough? While these questions sound funny, they are not always easy to answer. The best way to change this attitude is by understanding that pleasure is a bodily experience. We must be in our own body. Our head cannot be in the clouds. Although your partner should enjoy it as much as you do, you must also be aware of yourself. After all, pleasure and presence are closely related. We cannot truly experience pleasure if we are not present in our body on a moment-to-moment basis. The key is allowing enjoyment to flow in its most authentic and natural form. Don't fall into the performance trap. You're not in the Olympics. Conclusion. Although sex education today is more accessible than ever, there are still people who are afraid to experience real pleasure, and we shouldn't blame them. After all, social media and the overwhelming amount of information can be a factor that reinforces confusion and myths around sex. However, you have taken a step in the right direction. Being curious and learning more about sexuality helps to improve self-esteem and enhance your relationship. Remember, assertive and honest communication about fantasies and boundaries is critical to a healthier connection. This summary serves as a wake-up call to free ourselves from shame and guilt by encouraging conscious and respectful sexuality. Now that you have learned the true purpose of pleasure, you will never go through frustrating moments again. Don't forget to think about how you feel, and remember that you are not in a competition. Your partner and your future self will thank you for it. Try this. Know your body and study your natural instincts. Sexuality is the expression of the soul. If you understand what your true desires are, you will take an important step toward a healthy sex life. Involve your partner. Sexual experiences are better when you're on the same page as your partner because no one in the world understands you better than them. The right to say no. Recognize and respect your and your partner's right to say no to certain sexual practices or experiences. Thanks for being part of our insightful voyage. If our summary piqued your interest, we encourage you to dive into the complete book for a deeper understanding. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content if you're new here, and share it with others who might find it valuable. Keep on reading, discovering, and advancing until our next adventure.